So I wanted to take a minute to talk about Gawr Gura's graduation. I really enjoyed her content in a past life. And so I'm not really going to go into like the personal stuff. Like I'm not really going to go into like my feelings, or I'm not going to talk about her content all that much. Mostly what I'd like to talk about, I think, is what this means for indie VTubers. Cause hi, that's me. I'm an indie VTuber. Hello. My name's Joey. Nice to meet ya. I used to be a cam streamer for like forever. My main channel's got like 50,000 subs. This is just a channel where I'm yapping for lots of reasons. If you're not familiar with Gawr Gura, well actually if you're not familiar with what graduations are, I made a video about VTuber terms. It's a little hard to watch, but it's, you know, it's whatever. If you're not familiar with Gawr Gura, she is leaving with like 4.5 million subscribers, I think. Currently, she's the most subscribed to VTuber on YouTube. She's very popular. As far as I understand it, she was like Hololive's face of VTubing in the West. Hololive just kind of built their whole strategy about how they were going to approach international audiences off the back of Gawr Gura and kind of how popular she was. How popular she is. I don't know what the right terminology is. But I really feel like her graduation kind of marks the end of an era. And by graduation, if you don't know what that means, she's basically moving on from content creation as Gawr Gura. She, I think, has been quite clear about the idea that if one door closes, another one opens. So I think we might see someone else pop up in the future with a very familiar sounding voice. Maybe somebody willing to get blitzed and sing Country Roads. But this is really huge, and she's not the first talent to be leaving Hololive. I won't get into my ideas about how large corporations treat their talents or anything like that, because frankly, I don't have any experience with it. I worry a little bit about more noise in that space, muddying the waters in terms of what the creators who actually work or worked for those corpos have to say about it. But there have been, what, 7? I think, no, she's the 7th Hololive member to leave in the last, like, 9 months, I think. So those VTubers in the last 9 months having left are Minato Aqua, Amelia Watson, Series Fauna, Sakamata Chloe, Murasaki Shion, Nanashi Mume, and now Gawr Gura. And honestly, Cover Corp, who owns Hololive, I think they're feeling it. Like, their stock dropped a whole lot after she announced her graduation. And so there have been some post-publications kind of mentioning that some of the larger corporations need to allow talent more creative freedom, or they need to allow them some schedules that are a little less daunting or a little less kind of burnout inducing. And sure, as far as I understand it, those are both things that large agencies struggle with. Gura, and as far as I know, some of the other girls have cited some of the reasons why they're leaving as disagreements with management and company direction, right? So you're caught up enough to have the discussion that I'd like to have, which is, like, what does this mean for indie VTubers? Because I think this is really, really interesting. I spend a lot of time looking at the channels of indie VTubers, trying to figure out how they did what they did to find success, and what did that look like for them? What does that look like for other VTubers now? What are they going through now? What are they looking to try to go through? How is that working out for them? I spent a lot of time looking at that stuff. And it's really interesting. Things are in kind of an interesting place. So there was all the controversy with Nishi Sanji at like the beginning of last year. I think the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. I think. Are my years blending together? Jesus Christ. But I'll say that Doki Bird, I think, really made a platform for herself. She really made a presence for herself online. She, with the support of others and like with her own determination and stuff, she made it work. She's there. She made it, you know? And I saw somebody speculating that maybe some of the agency VTubers see the success of someone breaking off and doing their own thing independently and think, oh, maybe I can do that. You know what I mean? And I truly think that these people are talented enough and are experienced enough that they absolutely can. Most of them had a successful online following prior to their work with an agency. So, like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they're like, yeah, I can totally make this work. And that they do, in fact, actually make it work. But there's kind of some interesting stuff that I wanted to touch on. One is that overall viewership has gone down a little bit in starting in Q3 of 2024. But there was a report that was released by Stream Charts and vstats.jp where they were, okay, this was kind of around the time that Iron Mouse was getting all of the attention that she was getting for her subathon, which I think, hey, you go, you do it. Hell yeah. But there was a report that was released that showed that overall viewership for VTubers was down 1.5%, which is like, okay, sure. So like, but what if we consider indies? And it turns out that overall viewership for independent VTubers in Q3 of 2024 was down 4.5%, which is like way more than the Corpo VTubers. Now, you might be able to attribute a part of that loss in viewership of Corpo VTubers to the departure of some large talents, you know what I mean? But you also have these very large success stories like Dokibird, for example, who has been operating well before this report came out. And I see a bunch of indie VTubers who are steadily growing. I'm watching them on Twitch and they are growing consistently. So where's that dip coming from? What does that look like? I'd be really interested to know what information was included in that report, what channels they looked at and stuff like that. But I think you hear it all over the place these days that VTubing is very, very saturated, especially indie VTubing. And I've seen a lot of agency VTubers be quite clear about the fact that, like, yeah, indie VTubing it's tough. It's a tough gig to try and get out there and make it because there's so much noise to compete with. And I wonder if there's not more opportunities for more smaller, kind of creator-focused agencies to pop up. I wonder if there's not more opportunities for VTuber groups and stuff like that, little compacts between individual independent creators. If the larger independent creators are getting bigger and the smaller independent creators are getting smaller, then I don't know, what does that mean? I think at the end of the day, the people who just really love making content and who are willing to work hard at it, to put in really hard creative work, and who are willing to show up, and who are willing to set everything in their lives up to be able to capitalize on a moment where things work out for them really well, I think those creators will always do well. I think that there will always be stories about the people who are making it work for them, and I think that's awesome. I fully expect someone who sounds very similar to Gura being one of those stories, being somebody that I'm reading about a couple months, maybe a year from now or whatever, maybe a couple weeks from now, who has really kind of made her way. I think that'd be cool as hell. I truly, to Gura and to like the rest of the Hololive talent that is looking to kind of break out into the independent space, I wish them nothing but luck. I absolutely will watch some of them. I think it'd be really interesting to see what kind of content Gura goes back to now. I think that would be very interesting, and I can't wait to see what comes of it. One other thing that I wanted to mention is that I think there are a lot of folks who will be very surprised at the content that Gura makes as an independent. Well, Gura won't be making content as an independent, but you know what I mean. Wait, listen, if you're here, if you're this far into the video, you know what I'm talking about. I think a lot of people will be very surprised at the content that comes about. If one door closes and another one opens, I think that from my perspective, it seems like a lot of people who watch agency VTubers are there specifically for the polish. They're for the programming. They're not necessarily there for the personality behind the creator. I think lots of people are. Don't get me wrong. I think lots of people are absolutely there for the creator, not the company. I like to think of myself in that group. There are some Hololive talents that, like, I'm invested, dude. And I'm not invested in the character. I'm not invested in the content that the company allows them to make. I'm very invested in the person, and, like, I would love to see what they do if and when they're doing stuff outside of the agency that they're affiliated with. There's a question there. There's a thing that I've noticed, and I don't know what to make of it. I truly don't, because I truly don't feel like independent VTubers are becoming less interesting, but I don't have an explanation for why viewership is dropping, especially in a landscape where more and more large creators are switching to independent VTubing. I don't get it. I think maybe this is just to kind of fill you in on what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to figure out. It's an invitation to have a conversation about it. My name's Joey, and come by a stream. Let's talk about it on the streams. Oh, no, in Discord, we just started an anime club. We started an anime club in Discord. You gotta get in there. It's cool. All right, I'll see you. Bye. Bye.